In our last update, we wanted to see price drop into our support area, which was between $112,900 and $113,100 to see a reversal to the upside, hit our resistance at $115,000, and if we broke above it, I did expect to move towards at least $118,000. And if you go over to the charts, as you can see, that's almost exactly what happened, because this time I do have to admit this was not the cleanest respect of my support area, because we got an early close below, but then we ended up getting a reclaim, a retest, a move higher, broke above our resistance, and did end up making our area pretty easily towards, once again, $118,000. So as usual, before we dive into today's price action and what you can potentially expect next, let me quickly recap what I personally did. So if you remember in our last update, I was in a long position exactly from Monday's lows at $111,500 because we saw the sign of strength, which was the reclaim of 111.6. And also on Sunday, I did realize that we had the potential to form a runaway gap and see a push much higher this week, which is of course exactly what happened. So I just remained long and chill, and on Tuesday, as outlined, I was still expecting higher prices. This was my support, which as mentioned, didn't end up getting respected very well. That was pretty unfortunate even for myself, because even though I was in a long position from lower, I was interested in averaging up, but also open new long positions. But after seeing this close, I decided not to touch my long, and then when we got the reversal, I was still in the exact same long position. And for the short position, it was very simple. When we reached our area, at this point, I was not in a short position and I wanted to wait for the early close. And if you go over to the charts and look at the early close, well, as you can see, it's pretty obvious. We closed way above that resistance and there was no short position to take. After that, once again, our first target was $118,000, and same thing on that level, no reaction at all, so no short positions to take. So with that said, once again, pretty accurate analysis as usual. I do have to say my mistake on this low was that I was a bit too strict on the closes, because if you look at the logic of the midpoint, take the midpoint of the 4-hour imbalance, 112.9, as you can see in hindsight, this was still a very good retest. The wick was not big enough for me to consider it lost, so it was a perfect retest before we saw that move much higher. In any case, once again, exactly as expected, we got the drop into the midpoint to see that big reversal higher. So with that said, what can you expect next? So as usual, let's outline the levels above and below. To the upside, I have this level, which was a small area before, but right now I want to keep it as a level. It's very simple. It's the 12-hour open. It's the 4-hour open, which are both imbalances on the 4-hour and on the 12-hour. And finally, it's also the midpoint of this daily imbalance, okay? So the level to the upside does remain $121,000. Below us, of course, we have this imbalance, but this time, even though I will take the midpoint, I do have to say that since this candle is so big, reaching the midpoint would actually be a sign of weakness. So I will take this level, but I would like to find a level just a bit above. If we go on the 12-hour, we have a 12-hour open right there, which is perfect, which is also a 12-hour imbalance on Binance. But the problem that I have with this level is that if you go on the 4-hour, as you can see, the 4-hour open, which is also the 12-hour open, has already been retested. So if I show you clearly, we got the open, the move up, we got the retest to the dollar almost, and then we continued higher. So that's why even though that's an interesting support level, as it has already been tested, my opinion, it is not the best one. So what I would expect to see higher prices would be that instead of reaching that support and then seeing a bounce, which is possible of course, so just be aware of that, what I would expect is that we potentially drop, put in a higher low, so something like this, drop, put in a higher low, and then reverse the upside, okay? So once again, even though this is my support, for the reasons outlined, I am not the biggest fan of it, and that's why a higher low makes a bit more sense in my opinion. So if you get the drop, you get the imbalances, you get a nice reaction, you can open long positions to see a reversal to the upside. Now, on the other hand, of course, once again, if you had the retest, the reaction, this could still offer a long position, but in my opinion, this is very unlikely to play out. But with that said, before I elaborate further on this scenario, so on the higher time frame scenario, there is two things that we have to note. The first thing is that this uptrend is simply so overextended. We had the massive move up on Sunday, on Monday, a big bounce before the close on Tuesday, and another massive move up on Wednesday, so yesterday. So with that said, it does make sense to expect a bit of cooling off, so a bit of sideways price action. And the second thing to note is that, of course, you've all heard about Uptober. And the problem that I have is that if you take the monthly open, which is right there, we barely even wicked to the downside and got a straight massive move to the upside. So in my opinion, that's too easy to be true. And that's why, with these two things in mind, what I would expect is that first, as this uptrend is so overextended, I am expecting not much to happen until Friday. So potentially we do get that higher low, we get a drop, higher low, but then after this, in my opinion, price will just go sideways until Friday. And then if this happens, what I would look for is an aggressive move up on Monday, so drop, Friday sideways, an aggressive move up on Monday into our resistance at $121,000. And if you get a good reaction up there, then this could offer a very nice short position, in my opinion, to come back below the monthly open, which will be the open of the daily imbalance as well at $114,000. And of course, at this point, if this happens, I will film a new update to see, do we have a long position down there, or do we simply expect lower prices? So with that said, that was mainly it for this update, a very simple one. So a quick recap: to the downside, even though this is my support level, because it has been retested, I am not the biggest fan of it, and that's why I would expect a higher low to be put in and then potentially go sideways until the end of the week. However, of course, if you come back below it, then this would be a pretty big sign of weakness, and I would expect the fill of the daily imbalance down to $114,000. But at this point, because of this very volatile week, I am expecting sideways price action. And then after this, on Monday, if we get this, we can look for that move up into $121,000 to then see that reversal to the downside. On the other hand, of course, if we get another straight move up from here, so we don't even retrace, then in my view, this could offer an even easier short position if you see the reaction, because this uptrend at this point would simply be so overextended that the shorts just become much more likely. So as usual, if you guys enjoyed this update, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.